Hello everyone and welcome to another video. I needed a wireless gaming mouse for my living room setup, and somehow this Logitech G305 ended up being the cheapest option. Although it currently sells for about 70 Canadian dollars on Amazon, you can get them brand new for as cheap as $30 on Facebook Marketplace, and if you don't mind getting a secondhand mouse, you can get one for as cheap as $20. But let's see if it's any good. Before we check it out, please consider subscribing to my channel so I can make more videos. Let's have a look at the design and the build quality. This mouse is sold in 6 different colors and I got the white one here. Honestly, as I got mine from Facebook Marketplace, I didn't really get to choose the color. Logitech definitely went for an understated design, and I actually appreciate that. Compared to other brands, Logitech seems to have noticed that we use our mice for stuff other than gaming. As you might expect at this price point, the mouse is all plastic, but it at least feels well built. For what it's worth, the Logitech G903 that I use daily is also plastic and it costs about twice as much. It's quite heavy at 101 grams, which is surprising. Most of that weight is on the back of the mouse, as that's where the battery is. It's a rather small mouse, but I don't have a problem with that. On the bottom, we have the optical sensor as well as 5 feet to reduce the friction when it's sliding on a surface. The on-off toggle is also there, but you'll rarely have to use it as this mouse has some sort of power saving algorithm that's already in effect, so you won't really need to turn it off. We have the forward and back buttons on the left side of the mouse. This isn't really a feature anymore, as even the cheapest mice on the market have these buttons. The no-nonsense theme continues on top of the mouse as well. It honestly just looks like a regular mouse. As a left-hander, I really appreciate the ambidextrous design. Most cheap gaming mice are heavily right-hand biased, and as a left-hander, I really have a hard time using those. This is my Logitech G903 that I've been daily driving for a year. It definitely has more design elements, but you know what these crevices mean? That they're dust magnets. It's genuinely hard to keep this mouse clean. Fortunately, the G305 doesn't have that problem, but as it's a white mouse, keeping this clean might be a challenge. The cover below the mouse button slides down, and that's how you get to the wireless receiver as well as the AA battery that powers this mouse. I really hope that this cover doesn't loosen up over the years. By the way, you get a USB extension cable in the box for the wireless receiver. I can tell that this is a place where Logitech cut corners, as this extension cable is really thin and not really well built, but I can't really complain because they added one in the first place. There is no RGB lighting on this mouse. In fact, there's no lighting at all. And with that, let's move on to the sensor. Like most Logitech gaming mice, the G305 has a hero sensor. Its DPI, so sensitivity, can be adjusted from anywhere between 200 to 12,000 DPI. Logitech calls their wireless connection technology Lightspeed, which basically means that it has a polling rate of 1000 Hz, which means that you basically have a reaction time of 1 millisecond. Most wired mice also have a polling rate of 1000 Hz, which means that at least technically, this mouse is supposed to be as responsive as wired gaming mice. Speaking of wires, you don't have the option to use this mouse as a wired mouse. The G305 has a claimed battery life of 9 months with an asterisk. You can get up to 9 months as long as you're okay with reducing the polling rate as well as possibly changing some other settings. If you don't want to compromise performance, you get up to 250 hours. If you use your computer 4 hours a day every day, that's a little bit over 2 months. Personally, I have a bunch of rechargeable AA batteries lying around, so battery life is not a problem for me. With the specs out of the way, let's talk about user experience, and let's start with the G-Hub app. If I made this review a couple years ago, I would complain about the G-Hub being buggy and clunky and overall not having a great experience, but kudos to Logitech for actually fixing their app and making it much more usable than it was a couple years ago. The app lets you configure 2 main aspects of the mouse, sensitivity and the mouse buttons. Let's start with the mouse buttons. There are 6 buttons on this mouse in total, and they're all programmable. You can also set macros to any button that you want. By the way, this mouse doesn't have a left-right axis for the scroll wheel. This might not be something that you care about, but I personally like having that, especially if I'm on a web page and if I want to go left or right. It might be useful. It's just something that this mouse doesn't have. And honestly, in general, it's not something that can be found in this price range. Under sensitivity settings, you can set the preset DPI levels as well as the DPI shift level. By default, your mouse configuration is saved on the G-Hub app. So if you quit the app or switch to another computer or operating system, you'll lose your configuration. This is especially annoying for Linux, as Logitech doesn't offer the G-Hub app for Linux. Fortunately though, Logitech gives us the option to save the configuration on the onboard memory of the mouse, so we don't have to worry about installing G-Hub on another computer or possibly trying to migrate our profile settings to another computer. One thing that this mouse is missing though is multiple onboard memory profile configurations. Using this mouse in daily tasks is a breeze. I've used some wireless mice in the past that would turn off their sensor after a couple minutes of inactivity, and the only way to turn it back on would be to click a button. That gets annoying because you constantly forget about it and you keep wondering why the mouse doesn't work, but fortunately, the G305 does not do that. It goes into power saving mode, I can tell, but the second you move the mouse, it immediately wakes back up and starts working, as you expect it to. In my personal opinion, this mouse slides fairly well on a mouse mat. Maybe there's an ever so slight difference in friction between this and the Logitech G903, but as I'm not a professional mouse tester and as I don't have the right equipment, I can't really do an objective test. On a desk surface, it slides really well. In fact, in my opinion, it slides a bit more than it should. Also, its feet get quite noisy when used on a desk surface. It's clear to me that Logitech designed this mouse to be used on a mouse mat. And I get that. Left and right clicks make a bit more noise than your average gaming mouse, but it's not loud enough to cause problems for you or people around you. By the way, none of the buttons feel cheap. In fact, they feel pretty much the same as the Logitech G903. When gaming, this mouse is surprisingly consistent and accurate as long as you're using it on a mouse mat. I also haven't had any problems in connection, no drops, no freezes or lags, despite the fact that I have 3 Logitech devices connected to this computer. That being said, this mouse is clearly designed for smaller hands, so if you have large hands, you might get uncomfortable after a while. I strongly suggest that you go to a local Best Buy or a Memory Express and check it out for yourself. Okay, conclusion time. When it comes to gaming mice in this price range, you seem to have a lot of options. But if you're looking for a reliable wireless gaming mouse with no significant downsides, this one is quite hard to beat. And because it's such a popular model from a well-known brand, you can get one for even cheaper on Facebook Marketplace. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider liking this video, checking out my other videos, and subscribing to my channel. Take care.